Welcome back to MMA Sucka Fight fans. My name's Nate Freeman. I'm joined today by Jayde Sheeley, who is fighting on the prelims for LFA 152 on February 10th, making her pro debut. Jayde, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a long day, so I'm definitely going to crash after this interview, but I'm excited to get everything going.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. And I'm sure that you're excited to finally, hopefully, be making it back into the cage.
Yeah, we still have a few days,
It's
so anything can happen, but yes, I'm really
knock on
excited.
wood, fingers crossed. It's
Yeah.
been a long time coming. This will be your first fight in 4 years, first fight, or
Yes.
nearly 4 years.
Almost 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah. And you had a fight booked for the end of 2021, and that fell through. So, what exactly between then and now has been going on? I know that you've competed in some jiu-jitsu matches and things like that. So just tell us, just sort of give us an update on everything that's been going on throughout really the whole 4 years.
Yeah. So my last fight was in 2019. I think it was in March. Had a great fight, and I tried to get one right after that. A lot of things fell through. A couple weekends couldn't work with my job. So I just started training. I've never stopped training, just to throw that out there. There's never been a layoff. I'm full time. It's like my second job. So then we had a few booked right before COVID. Same thing. Opponents got hurt or didn't want to do a certain weight, wanted me to fly a certain place, and it just wasn't working out. COVID hit. So I think it was really rough. And then right around, we were trying from July 2021 until December, where I had the one booked with the B2 fight series. And they had been trying to find me someone since that July. And then they finally got the girl in December, and she got COVID. So she says, and not to throw any shade at her, but everyone that she could have just tested positive. Everything was still sketchy back in 2021 with COVID. And then it was the same thing. We couldn't find anyone. And I actually really did want one more amateur because again, 4 years. I just wanted to get the cage rust off, just in case. And it just wasn't working out. We were like, screw it. Like, we'd been talking with, the idea with LFA or Bellator in the last year or so. So we just pulled the trigger and we're like, let's just do the pro debut and stop trying to get something going.
Yeah. So this pro debut has been something that people have been looking forward to for a long time. You fought all of your amateur fights, to my knowledge, in Iron Tiger, and
Yes.
were the champion there, defended your belt and all of that. So now you are making your pro debut at long last, and on LFA, which is, as everyone knows, a feeder to bigger promotions and all of that. So not only are you making your pro debut, but you're making it on a big platform like that. What are your emotions like? What are you feeling? Not only to be making your pro debut, but to be on that big of a platform, and coming back after so long. I feel like that's got to be a lot to be thinking about and all of that.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of emotions. I would say one thing that covers all those questions you just asked is my mindset has changed so much in the last 4 years. I'm 29 now. My first fight was when I was 19. My dad is my coach, so I've been training since I was little. My dad was a kickboxer, an MMA fighter, so I've always been doing it. But my mindset, you just used to stress out, freak out, everyone's going to be watching, and I'm a lot more calmer now, or more calm, and just trying to get excited about it. I love fighting. I want to make a career out of fighting, and the prep up to the fight, the training, everything, that stuff's so scary. And I just have to remember, I love being in the cage. So it's whatever happens, that's my favorite thing to do is fight. And it's been so long since I've been able to, and I have so many new things I want to do. Even the pro rules obviously are different than amateur. So many tools I wasn't allowed to access, and my fight game in general has changed over the last 4 years. I had a lot of time, especially with COVID, to work on things that I just simply wasn't good at. I had a lot of holes as an amateur fighter, so I've had so much time to fix those, and I definitely feel way more well-rounded, ready for this fight to go wherever it may go, and basically excited would be an overall word.
Absolutely. And you were facing Nejra Repp, who has a kickboxing background, has fought a lot of kickboxing fights. She too is making her pro debut, I believe. And she has basically had her whole MMA career since you last fought, interestingly enough. But how do you see her as an opponent? Have you watched any tape on her? Do you leave that to your coaches, to your dad, or
I do
how do you see the fight going?
Yeah, so I do usually leave that to my coaches. Like I said, my dad's my main coach. I do have a separate jiu-jitsu coach, Vitor Oliveira. Really with her, I originally looked her up. I mean, we weren't picky with opponents in general. It's like, oh my God, we have someone, she's not a scrub and she's not like some crazy sleeper 20 fight, under the radar that's going to come out, on my first pro debut. But I looked her up just briefly. There's not a lot online on her, but there also isn't on me. Even my last, I think my last fight you can find is maybe 2014, 15, when I was in college, drinking beer every weekend and just going and fighting. But I saw she was a kickboxer, a striker, and that's how I started. That was my, bread and butter for years. I love striking. I love doing other things too. But basically I was like, okay, she's game. I don't think it's going to be a boring fight at all. And she's tough. I train with one of my main training partners. It's been a few years since she moved, but was Vanessa Demopoulos, who held the belt. Trained with her since I started MMA. And she kind of reminds me of Vanessa a little bit. Comes out, she's tough. I don't think I'm just going to be able to overwhelm her with punches. So I think she's going to be game, and it's going to be an entertaining fight for the fans.
Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to it. Do you have because one of LFA's biggest, one of the things that is a big pet peeve of mine and many fans is that we never know where we're going to find the LFA prelims. Have you been told anything about that and where we might be able to find them?
So no, I know as well as you. And actually, so another girl I know that fought on LFA, Diamond Long, she just fought not too long ago. I think it was her pro debut. I didn't get to watch it, and I'm just like, I try not to watch my opponent much. So I'm like, I'm just gonna watch some of my friends on LFA. And I couldn't find her fight on the UFC Fight Pass, and that's when I figured out that there were prelims. I didn't even know there was everyone wasn't the main card that was on the Fight Pass app. So I did find that it's on YouTube, but I still don't know if they have their own YouTube page or whatnot. And I actually just had to, I think I saw on Tapology that it was on the prelim. So I just found that out today. Not that it matters, but I was just like, I'm not quite sure where to tell people to watch my fight, and didn't really want to be worrying about that the week of. But yeah, I'm if you find out, you let me know.
Normally they do it, or well, not normally. Sometimes they do it on their Facebook page. Sometimes they do it on their YouTube page.
I did not know that.
The problem is, if you ask them where you can find it, they will block you, and that's so strange. I
did not know that. Well, I haven't asked yet, so
it's so strange. So I'm hoping, because I believe that your fight is either headlining the prelims or is right there near the top. So they normally do those fights, like the top one or two, on either the Facebook or YouTube. So
so do they even change? Because I saw the prelim, it was 4. So then I didn't know if all the prelims are on, because you know how they have early prelims for UFC. So I was just I don't know. I told people
normally
I'll try to get it to you, but
normally they'll have some amateur fights that are completely dark, and then the pro fights are normally the ones that are aired on Facebook or
Okay.
YouTube, or their last show in Brazil, they had the prelims on Fight Pass, and I haven't seen if that's the case for
Oh.
this one or not. But
I haven't seen anything, and I've like checked emails and whatnot. They're pretty good about sending out, the itinerary and everything else, where to get tickets. So maybe we'll see something the next week. But I just kept telling people like check Fight Pass or check YouTube. Like someone will figure it out. And I obviously want my fans to watch, but like I'm sure you've talked to a million fighters. I'm just like, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy
yeah.
to fight. If you don't see it, you can see a replay. Like,
Yeah, I'm not meaning to call you out, LFA, but like
help
get
us
it
out.
together with the prelims, because this is a thing every event.
Every fight
So
is different.
um
Keeps us guessing.
yeah. um anyway, getting back to you and getting back to a little bit of your training. You mentioned that you train with your dad, Scott Sheeley,
Mm-hmm.
who is accomplished, like you mentioned, kickboxer, did ISKA, K1, all of that, competed against Kung Lee twice,
Mm-hmm.
competed in MMA and all of that. Very decorated background. Um, did you have much of a choice to do MMA or do any sort of combat sports, or did he sort of pull you in from the beginning, or what was
So
that whole experience growing up with somebody?
I would say my father-daughter coaching experience is not like most people. I laugh with him. He's a very tough love. We have a really good relationship. I see him every single day training. But he did not want me to fight. Absolutely did not want me to fight. My first wanted me to do kung fu and like the martial arts self-defense stuff. And I started training MMA like with the adults at 14, and then started taking it serious like 16, and around 18 before college. I just remember a random girl was in there. I knew her, and she was getting a fight, and I was like, I want to fight. And he's like, you don't. Why would you want to fight? Like you're not gonna fight. So for my first 3 fights, he did not coach me. I didn't know what to eat. I didn't know what to drink. I didn't know. He said, "Figure it out. You want to fight?" Like, I mean, this was 2012 too, so the history of MMA. We were just a bunch of fucking meatheads back then. And like nobody was training smart. There was just like, who's the stronger, who's the toughest kind of. There was no other girls really. I had like one that would pop in every now and then. So I started fighting. I went to Ohio University, fought a few times when I was in college. It was great. I've always been tough. And so I really didn't have to train much. I could show up and, knock, KO people. It was great. And then after college, I bartended and I made great money. I could travel, I could train 3 times a day. And he was like, no, like I fought, I had so many injuries. What if you break like both your hands? You can never fight again. Like, go do something with your college degree. So he actually convinced me to go to the police academy. He works at the police academy, teaches the defensive tactics there. I went through, I never thought I'd want to be a cop either, mind you. And so I go through, I realized, oh, okay, I actually like this. Ended up working in I'm still in law enforcement. I'm a deputy, been doing that. And I would say, honestly, until the last year and a half, my dad still tried to convince me not to fight. And I said, I'm going to be in the UFC. Like, that's the plan. Like, you're just going to have to deal with it. And I'm getting older. Like, let's get the ball rolling. So we changed some things and with my training, and he's like, all right, you can hang. Like, you're ready to go. So I've had a tough way with him.
So you said you started at 14, you started training.
Yeah.
How much convincing did it take for you to get started even in the first place?
It was almost like reverse psychology. Didn't ever pressure me, so I went. I never had anyone telling me I needed to show up, and I actually was horrible at every other sport except fighting. I really wish I would have started jujitsu when I was younger. I didn't start strictly like learning the fundamentals of jujitsu, like a structured gi class or no gi class, until like 24. But I was horrible at every sport: volleyball, basketball, soccer. I sucked. I was so unathletic. And I'm really good at fighting. I'm like, man, if I would have just poured all my energy into that when I was younger. But I had no pressure. So I would just kind of show up when I wanted to. And I ended up, I watched my dad fight when I was younger on TV. It was like you mentioned his stuff before. He was always going to Korea, he helps, after he fought Kung, they became best friends. They're still really good friends. And he helped go assistant coach the Ultimate Fighter China. Or go out and help with Kung's camps for his UFC fights. So he was always gone, and I was just watching. I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is the kind of life I want to live and be a fighter and make a living out of doing something I love. So eventually he caved and realized he's not going to convince me otherwise. And it's gone really well the last year. Now he's accepted that I'm going down the same path he did.
And what does obviously we're thankful that he's in your corner and fully focused on helping you achieve your dreams. But how has that sort of rapport? How has it changed, and what does it look like as a daughter-father duo? Like, is there any sort of awkwardness, or is there any sort of extra intensity? Like, does he coach you extra hard or anything like that? I'm always curious about that.
No, and again, I don't know a lot of personally know a lot of father-daughter or son-daughter, mother-daughter, any like family dynamics coaching. I don't know them personally. Like I said, my dad's very tough love. His mindset approach is totally opposite of mine. I'm very positive and just like good mindset, always and he's kind of like put you through the ringer, and like when you come out the other, like, let's see what you can, like, how you can create yourself with going through all these hardships. So for a lot of the time he just wouldn't coach me. He figure it out in yourself, critically think on your own. I'm here. So it was never harder treatment. It was almost easier treatment, like less specifics. The only hard issue we had was like separating that coach and father aspect sometimes, because I'm with him, all day, every day. And then we're going to like family gatherings together after we just like butted heads at practice all the time. And also, I can't fire him. Like, he's I could technically, but it's not like, if he was a manager and I'm like paying him, or a certain coach, there's specific things that I would always expect. So it's always changing with him because he's still my dad. But I also, he hasn't steered me in the wrong direction. And for a while I tried to challenge him with a lot of his trainings, but he's helped a lot of people get really far in this game, and he's gone and trained with so many top athletes. So, and until I get a resume like that, what he's doing is working. So I've learned to, maybe I don't know it all, and just take his all the knowledge I can get from him.
Absolutely. You have followed his footsteps into combat sports. You mentioned that you followed his footsteps into law enforcement. You are working for the sheriff's department, and I believe you just started doing something that he does as well, in terms of teaching combatives and things like that to law enforcement officers as well. You just started doing that, correct?
Yes. So my dad actually is not a law enforcement officer. He's never had any kind of career in law enforcement. He actually jokes he used to get arrested all the time. That's how he got fighting. He was always in bar fights or something of that sort. And he had a lot of good role models that are like, hey, why don't you go put all this, anger to something good and learn how to fight. So he's actually grandfathered in the academy he's at. He's the only instructor there that's not prior law enforcement, but it just shows how much he knows with how to do the combatives part of the job the most efficient way, without hurting himself, other people. There's just way smarter ways instead of the old school, like, pressure point kind of style. So he's doing that. And then the guys that I met, they actually found me. The company's called Effective Fitness Combatives. And they run a lot of different pages on Instagram. I'd followed them for a while, and they reached out to me, and it was a bunch of guys that are either BJJ black belts, collegiate wrestlers, and they're also law enforcement. So these guys basically redid the whole curriculum for New York State Police Academy, their SWAT team. But they also were MMA fighters. They're, you know, college professors, like the top of the top. And I went down and shadowed a training with them, and I was like, this stuff is so, like, they didn't even have to tell me. I knew most of it just from wrestling, you know, the footwork from boxing, kickboxing, and what they're doing, adding that to law enforcement is amazing. So when they offered me a job, I was like, hell yeah, like this is awesome. I get to combine like helping people do their job safer and like my favorite thing ever, which is MMA. And I like teaching people that are motivated and want to learn. So I love it.
Absolutely. And it's nothing like, I'm sure, nothing like Dale Brown and Dust and all of that
No.
broad stuff. And
No.
people do, yeah. So I'm curious, with um, all of the sort of background and history of law enforcement, sort of bad publicity, we'll
Mhm.
call it, for law enforcement officers, especially this past week with Tyree Nichols. I'm curious how your training in combatives and how your background as a law enforcement officer and an MMA fighter, maybe your perspective on that and how you can use maybe combat sports training to maybe have these police officers and law enforcement officers better equipped to not only know how to handle themselves more, but how to de-escalate and all of that as well.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I have some opinions, and but I also can't speak for everyone, because I will say my demographic from the majority of law enforcement is different. So I do work in a smaller county. It is rural. Um, I, I'm dealing with like some crazy farming wildlife stuff, you know, crashes most of the time. So I don't deal with the same thing someone might be in a downtown city environment. So my opinion, you know, if I was doing the same thing every day, it could be totally different just from the environment I'm in. The second one, I really try to get people. This career is physical. Anyone can look at it. That's why there's physical standards, and sadly, those are getting lowered because no one wants to do the job anymore, and I can't blame them. It's a hard job. It's not a fun job to do every day, but it's, you know, you don't see people like Navy SEALs and those kind of guys, like their standards for physical jobs for a reason. So if you can't, you know, run for a certain amount of time, or, you know, carry your own weight or squat, that's like step one. Maybe you shouldn't be in this job. Um, Second is the training, which I think every cop should train jujitsu, something of that sort. But you know, there's always going to be stubborn people that don't want to hear any this or that. So I don't want to get on my high horse. But because I train and I've trained all my life, that confidence and being able to handle myself in a physical fight altercation, I don't have to get hands on right away. I know how to talk to people because I'm confident, as in, if my talking skills don't work, I'm going to be fine. You know, I'm not, shit, let me get my taser out, because what am I going to do if this guy punches me in the face or like body locks me? Like, what am I going to do? And he just takes me to the ground. I have no clue what to do. And I'm a small female kind of thing. So realistically, I've been able to use my vocal skills a lot more because I'm confident with my training. And that's what I try to tell people, you know, just because I'm a fighter doesn't mean, I've never actually, even in college, I never went up and started a fight by punching someone, like, because I know what happens if I punch someone. I might break my hand, like it's happened before. So I'm way better at like just spacing and how to handle myself, and also the nerves. A lot of right now, actually this week, where I'm so tired, I'm in another defensive tactics school for training. So I'm there with a lot of people that teach at the academies, and we're going through that. And we were just talking about how a lot of cops have never been in a real fight before, so they've never been punched, and their adrenaline hasn't got up there. You don't know how to um, calm yourself down and de-escalate the whole situation so you don't have blinders on to what's going on. So, that's a whole political thing we could get into. That's the whole nother hour.
Yeah,
But
that's a whole other
yeah,
conversation politically.
exactly.
Yeah, let's just skip that, save that for another
The
day.
basis
I
is a
think,
lot.
yeah, I think your answer was really interesting, and I think that shows that there's a lot that still can be learned and taught
Mhm.
in the law enforcement system. And yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think that, like you mentioned, and there's been sort of a rally behind the idea in the combat sports community that police officers and law enforcement officers should be trained in jiu-jitsu for the
Mhm.
reasons you just listed. And
Yeah.
I agree. I
I
think
even tell people jujitsu, like even for self defense, like females. I always compete. I don't know if anyone gets offended when I say females. Some people do, but being like around military and like law enforcement, I'm always like females, females. It's just proper. So I don't want anyone to be offended by that. But I even tell like any females, women that ask me what they should do, jujitsu. Like I've never just went up and punch somebody when I needed to. It's all about control, being able to control a person, pain compliance for anything. If you're on the street and you're getting attacked, law enforcement, pain compliance doesn't work. What if the guy's high on meth? What if the person is like 300 pounds heavier than you? Your punches in the face won't do anything. So it's all about control, body position. So, and just being able to be more confident. So everyone should do something where they're learning about their body and how to move and just defend themselves in some way. And it's fun. It's good for your mental health.
absolutely. Okay, so before we move on to the next thing, I do want to just ask some rapid fire questions real quick, just to allow fans to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
Maybe some things that you haven't discussed before. What is your favorite book or movie?
Ooh, book or movie Blade, the vampire movie Blade. That's been my favorite movie since the original, since I was 6.
I saw that you on your Instagram that you were like a vampire for Halloween or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did that like a couple. I love doing makeup because I do so many manly things. I'm in so many like male dominant career fields. So when I get to do my makeup and hair, I love doing like Halloween stuff. But when
And
I
then
was
this
growing up,
past year you did Poison Ivy, and
yes.
that was really cool looking too.
I didn't even get to go anywhere because I was working on Halloween. But I was like, oh, I gotta do hair and makeup. Like it's just fun. Like something other than punching people every day. So.
Yeah. So then your favorite, moving on, your favorite, either fighter or athlete or someone that you look up to in the sport.
Oh, that's hard. This is weird. I don't have one. But if I didn't think and you just asked me, probably Tito Ortiz because I grew up watching him. I just remember me and my mom watching him or my dad getting to meet him and I'd be like, you got to meet Tito. Like I just grew up watching Tito. I've never looked up to one person specifically, so I would just say Tito. I loved watching him.
That's fair. Very entertaining. Yeah. Your favorite, either your favorite, we'll do your favorite striking technique first.
Favorite strike, head kicks. I love head kicks. I'm not reliant on head kicks, but I love head kicks. I'm so excited to be in the pros where I don't get in trouble for doing them.
And then your favorite, either ground thing to do on the ground or favorite submission or whatever.
I really like leg locks. I don't get them all the time. I love knee bars or rear naked choke, head and arm choke. That's usually what I go for in jujitsu. Head and arm just comes naturally.
Yeah. Okay. And then if you had any advice for someone starting in combat sports, what would you tell them?
Starting don't be too hard on yourself, and don't stress out because there's so many things that you have to learn, and people forget that this is mixed martial arts. It's not just boxing, wrestling. Your stance is constantly changing, and just be open-minded, because you're going to go to a different gym or get a different coach, and they're all going to have different critiques. And sometimes you just have to take it with a grain of salt. Don't think one thing's the end all be all, and just get as much in as you can.
What food are you looking forward to most after making weight?
Oh my God, I'm addicted to candy. I have an actual problem. One day I'll be a real professional and like stop eating candy months out. I haven't had candy in a while. I'm gonna make weight. My weight's good, but I love blue Laffy Taffy and blue Sour Punch rolls, even though they're absolutely horrible for you. And tacos. So candy and tacos.
Blue Laffy Taffy. I'm not sure I've had the blue one before.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. I really actually like eating organic things that don't have like dyes or red 40 in them. But man, if they can make an organic blue candy that wasn't like completely trash, I'd eat it. But blue Laffy, oh my God, it's amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why I'm addicted, because whatever you put in it, it literally, I could eat tubs of that stuff.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So before I let you go, I want to give you the floor. How can people follow you on social media? Who are some of your sponsors that you want to thank? Any coaches, anybody in your corner, anything like that?
All my social media is my first and last name. I think it might be, I don't know if it's on the screen anywhere, but Jayde, Jayde _Sheeley, SHEELEY. It's on Instagram, Facebook. I don't use Twitter. I deleted it forever ago. Sponsors, I don't have any sponsors. Not because nobody wants to. It's just I hate asking people for things. It's a bad habit. So, but check my coaches, my two main coaches in two gyms. Scott Sheeley is my dad, and Vitor Oliveira, who runs Ronin Training Center in Columbus. And my company I work for, Effective Fitness Combatives. If you're law enforcement and you're looking to get your agency high speed, hit us up. Come help you out.
This has been Jayde Sheeley. She's fighting at LFA 152 on February 10th. On the prelims, hopefully we see her on YouTube or Facebook or wherever LFA wants to put it. Hopefully we're able to see it. Jayde, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck in your fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.